欢迎来到不上班 Out of Office， 我是倩，2所美国藤校毕业，曾经的企业高管，如今再也不上班。
我是 Ella， 欧洲音乐名校毕业，自由的青年钢琴家，从来不上班。
我们是2位成长足迹遍及世界4大洲的现代女性。在不上班这个播客中，我们期待和你探讨一切上班以外的世界。不上班，在充盈的精神世界里创造，
在丰富的情感世界里热爱，
在尽量健康的心理世界里生活。
Hello， 大家好，欢迎来到 Out of Office， 不上班，我是 Ella，
我是倩。今天我们录制的是他与他的对话，生与不生的真诚交流下半集。
对，
我也不知道最后的标题是什么，我随便讲的。好，这一集真的很希望大家可以先听上集，再听我们的下集。
对，
虽然也不影响你的理解，但是我觉得我们在上集当中。分享了很多很多的心得，大家可以看到我们这2个人是怎么来的，我们2个是怎么样来到这里、抵达这里的。这一集有一个很精彩的环节，就我们会放在节目的最后，但大家一定要听完哦，非常的我觉得有价值，因为我们请到了一位作者叫做 Nicole Louis， 他最近出版了一本新书叫做 Others Like Me， 其他像我一样的人啊，因为他没有中文的翻译，没有标准的这个译名，讲述的就是他自己的故事，同时又穿插了14个非常有意思的人物采访。这14个采访的对象都是来自世界各地各种不同背景的女性，因为各种原因，可能是自由选择，可能是客观的这个际遇，
对，
成为了所谓 women without children 没有孩子的女性，对，讲述的就是这个传统母职角色对于这些女性都多少都有些压力啊，尤其她自己的故事，
对，
最终她怎么样获得这种就是自在，或者说至少不会像她书中所说像快要淹死一样的感觉，因为她是一个与别人做的不一样选择的女性，对，所以这本书在写作过程当中也帮助了她获得了一种自在。所以 Nicole 在节目最后会跟我们连线到时候这个采访会是英语进行，但是我们也会有在视频的这个频道上的同学可以有中英文对照的字幕，如果是播客的朋友可以练练你的听力，或者转移到我们的视频平台去获得完整的这个字幕。那 Ella， 我们上一集其实也有 promise 或者说预告，我们上集讲个人的，对吧？讲非常非常自我的这些选择和路径。下一集主要是混聊，开始可以编打了。
但是我觉得立场是很健康的。
对，如果审核的同学仔细听的话，是的，
对，
我们是立场非常的温和，但是我们第一个要讲的话题呢，确实是有一些敏感的哈。
对，
因为这个词在英语当中叫做 prenatalism，就是生育主义。
对，
我为什么声音也变轻了？
不敢说了，突然。
这个 prenatalism 为什么敏感呢？就是因为我们现在过去几年当中有看到一个很强的，在部分国家非常强的一个趋势。就是各种政策，各种 whatever 鼓励更多女性去生更多的孩子。当然我们可以理解，我作为学经济的也完全理解，现在不是在说这个人口大爆炸将要榨干世界的资源这样子的时候了，完全不是了，而是人口如果不跟原来至少形成这个 replenishing， 就是进出平衡，进出好难听就是这个人口不保持稳定的话，会造成很多很多的社会问题，人口老龄化造成养老金不足劳动力不足等等，经济会衰退。但是落到一个这个文化上，我觉得又是一件非常让人头疼的事情。你怎么去鼓励女性去生育对吗？这听上去非常错误，
有点法西斯的感觉，听起来对不对？
我们还说我们不敏感。对，这个 prenatalism 呢，其实在部分国家，我刚才提到了，特别的盛行如果 大家跟我一样，像这个 ChatGPT 问这句话哈，就是说给我几个国家的例子，这些国家最近几年这个 pronatalism 非常的严重，他会给你诸如就是那些经常被批评的国家的列表。第一个出来就是匈牙利，匈牙利我不知道大家了不了解啊，但是这个authoritarianism 的这个倾向是非常非常严重的，这个词我就不翻译了。然后往往跟这种 authoritarianism 结合起来的就是很多右派的思想啊，包括这个pro family，我们不是 anti family，但是这个 pro family 现在也已经开始有了一点点，好像不是说贬义 negative 的负面的这种色彩。
对。主要是它带了很多的这个利益在里面吧，
对，
就是关系到这个社会的利益，就并不是说，因为我从小就会觉得，如果这两个人有爱，孩子是爱情的结晶嘛，你会听到。然后，但是现在好像觉得已经是一个好像货品一样的，一定要去补充这个货品没了。
不仅仅是这个冷啊，就不仅仅是这种好像把人看成一种货品一样的那种感受，更多的是这些往往被批评的 pronatalist 的国家。他们的这些政策当中还有一个就是要把女性，这个肯定有点点敏感，把女性的这个角色变得更传统。因为你得要洗呀，你得要洗了以后，你才能这个说服女性去做一件跟他们原来这个趋向是不一样的事情，对不对？鼓励他们去多生小孩所以为什么这些国家备受批评呢？也是这个原因，就是因为它在这个政策的设计过程当中，往往会有很多可以说是阻碍个人自由的事情吧。对，包括以色列其实也是一个很pronatalist 的国家，
对，他们战后一直都是这个样子的。
对，以色列有以色列的这个历史原因哈，毕竟有这个犹太人曾经被屠杀的这样一个历史背景，所以。在以色列，我知道 IVF， 你只要是公民的话 ，IVF 是免费的，完全免费。2个小孩，因为他们非常非常的鼓励生育。
对，他们也是全民皆兵，所以呢，像这种全民皆兵的国家，我觉得就是他们非常的在乎这个增长。
其实新加坡也是大家好像觉得新加坡往往是一个非常先进的，像是一个。东方的西方国家一样，实际上根本不是。新加坡是一个非常怎么说就是强手段的一个国家。
对，
他想要什么？对，他想要什么结果，他就会有很明确的这个指向性的政策去完成。但是听上去就是说是 family friendly。如果你想要建立一个家庭有生小孩的话，新加坡有很多的政策是会给予一些补贴呀，会让买房子变得更便宜、更容易等等。俄罗斯
哎呦，这个都不敢评价了。
我曾经看到俄罗斯在几年前发巨大的红包，生育红包巨大，大概是1万出头美金吧，如果没记错的话。但是造成的这个结果呢，就是在那个时候有了一个小小的这个增长就是刚颁布这个政策的时候有一个小小增长，那批人其实就是本来也要想要生小孩的家庭，趁这个时候把这个红包给拿了，但是没有长期的影响，很有意思，
就没有达到那种真的鼓励性的那个作用。
对，那其实我觉得我们自己国家也有很明确的一个改变嘛，从没有从这个取消独生子女政策，变成了2孩甚至3孩的这个政策。我也不知道，因为我这段时间改变的期间，我们都没有在国内居住所以不是太敏感这个具体实施到个人的阶层有没有体会到一些incentive 或者说是压力等等，也期待大家跟我们分享。我想讲一个故事，希望到时候不会被卡掉有一个女生朋友，她在北京常住，她跟我说，她经常搞一些小小的这个文化活动呀，在书店或者沙龙环境里面举行，一般都是给女性的其中有一个活动就是去讲这个月经的知识，关于女性健康的，结果居然被 censor 了，就是不让他们进行。她也觉得很奇怪，这月经有什么不好讲？
对啊，
结果上面给她的回复是。因为来月经说明没怀孕，所以不让你讲月经。
OK，
mind blown，like，
OK，
不来月经才怀不了孕嘞，真是讲讲月经正常的人才是最 fertile 的人。
对呀，对呀，
上面应该是个男的吧？Anyway， 以上这些仅供笑谈。
是的，是的，是的
啊，对，但是其实我们大家都可以理解对于 prenatalism 的这种批评哈，听上去很物化人，尤其女性，因为我们是生育的主体。
对，我觉得我们国家确实经过了一个非常有趣的一个，从独生子女到那个当时是那些人罚款都要偷偷生，
对，
到二胎突然一下放开了之后。到现在就是这个到3胎，好像我也不知道，我感觉就是响应的其实没有那么的多吧，就是从我听到的那个他们的谈话当中，
对，
就是
因为你不能只鼓励啊，你就算发个大的生育红包也不解决很多根本性的问题。
对，主要是养育的问题，我觉得是非常难的。
因为韩国比如说就有这样的问题，就是你可能会有这样的政策，或者说有这样的鼓励性质哈，但是社会的其他的部分不改变，比如说女性地位在职场地位的非常低的这个现象呀，包括育儿的这个系统支持不足，对吧？日托像葡萄牙也有这样的问题，日托都没有位置，
对，
那怎么办？你让谁去生？这个普通人小孩出生3个月，他得回去工作，
是
小孩放哪儿？对，这些系统都没有。
对，
所以说像刚才所说的这个俄罗斯的短期的这个非常大的红包的政策，其实就像是一个表演性质一样，结果没有任何的持续性的这个效果。对。还有呢，就是一个比较让人担忧的一个点，就是这一群孩子，就算是被鼓励出生了，他们有一种像工具人一样的属性所在哈，因为我们希望他们出生是为了什么呀？增长经济，是为了他们可能是去当兵的。或者纳税机器，对吧？或者补充养老金。
对，
我的天呐，
消费者，
你有问过他们意见吗？问过那些小孩的意见吗？Oh my god！ 所以
，Oh my god！
对，所以这个 prenatalism 确实是槽点非常的多，但是呢。也有一些国家做的相对来说会好一些哈。实际上，北欧国家我们经常拿北欧好像做一个比较良性的例子，他们有他们的这个特权，因为国家小，人口少，而且很单一，社会问题少，
是
他们解决一个问题好像很简单。大国或者说复杂的国家，确实没有这么的容易。但是北欧的一些政策，我觉得也可以借鉴。他们其实也是非常需要提升生育率的国家，做的相对来说比较好呢，是因为在就是还是非常把人这个个体很尊重哈，不管你是生还是不生，我们只是想要帮助那些想生但是不敢生或者因为各种原因没有选择生的人，帮助他们达到能生的这个水平吧。
对，我觉得他们国家的这个就这3国都是比较温和的政策，没有那种就是5国包括那个包括丹麦在里面吧，
芬兰和冰岛，
对冰岛，我觉得就是他们的政策比较温和，而且并没有这种特别的，就是去 force 你的那个感觉，但反倒好像没起啥作用，是不是越来越？
对，就是还没有达到2.2，就是我们之前讲的这个 magic number。对，就是北欧式的这种 prenatalism， 它一个比较大的特点，它不是去奖惩，不是去奖多生的人，然后去惩不生的人，而是说，就是把那些存在的社会性的这个阻碍给去除，让想生的人能够生到饱。对，想生的人可以生，对，当然也不完美哈。我们经常把北欧好像理想主义一些，但是这里可以说它的这个 guiding principle 还是比较符合我们大部分听众的想象的吧。
是。
OK， 最难的这个讲完了。
对，
希望能过审。
对啊，要不就可惜了。
对OK， 那其实。回到我们讲的这个个人选择问题上哈，Ella，其实继承下我们上一集的这个非常个人化的一些体验的分享，我还想问问，你觉得你有没有认为自己选择了一条更轻松的路，还是你觉得你选择的这条路是更难的，不生孩子？
我其实觉得这个很未知，就是我说实话，因为轻松和难，我觉得首先你这个选择你就不知道另外一条路是什么样子。对，比如说我可能看到身边的有当妈妈的朋友们，他们比如说每天要半夜起来喂奶呀，然后这些可能相对来说我可以睡足觉是非常轻松的。跟他们这样子的相比，但是呢，如果在我自己的这个世界里面，比如说我的这个因为我没有小孩的话，我的这个给自己的 project 就会非常非常多，然后给自己很多的这个或者 commitment， 这些也是会让我觉得就是肯定也不轻松的，在这个方面，对，因为你会，我觉得作为人都是想办法会想可能填空自己的填自己的一些时间呐，特别是像我这种比较 creative 的人，就是又坐不住的那种，所以。我觉得可能都会难，也都会轻松在某种程度上吧。你觉得？
但是你是不会担心养老问题，对吗？比如说，
我一点都不担心。对，这个就是
你的畅想是什么样子的呢？对于自己的
我畅想是我跟我先生，我们两个人已经就说，我们肯定就是要不就把死前把钱全部花光，然后。没花光就是捐赠，然后呢，我在想，因为现在我们的这个AI 来的有点太快，可能我觉得已经到时候这个选择都来不及了，就是你都会觉得，哎，我到底选哪一个方式的这个养老？而且主要是身边的这个我的丁克朋友，就是这种家庭，他们大家都有同样的这个想法，就是说可以，就是说一起互相帮助啊。
对。
然后并不是说我们要一起去这个养老院啊，或者怎么样子，但是就是说可以一起，也许住在一起，住在一个比较近的一个，对。然后我觉得一起做就是自己爱做的事情。我有一个家长朋友，他是非常就是富有的一个，他就说以后你们的养老我都包了，来跟我一起当邻居。他说孩子我是靠不住的。
是，实际上我提养老的这个问题，就算我自己来回答的话，也是跟小孩是没有任何关系的。
对，是的。你想那个看我如果我提一下那个 Nicole 那本书里面的一个环节，就是他说他的奶奶要让他帮他把他爸还有他爷爷的内裤叠成圆形。他们家里就把这个爸爸当成一个农保那样子，爸爸都是50岁的人了。到最后这个奶奶一个人孤独终老的时候怎么样？去了养老院，就一点都没有，就是说，你看我当时帮你把内裤叠成一朵花，然后你至少对，就是对我待遇好一点，其实一样的。所以我真的觉得在这个养老这个方面，我的一个学生家长朋友他就说，他说以后咱们就酒店见，他就说跟他的孩子，对，
我觉得。我觉得对于养老的问题，可能我们还要另开一集分享，因为其实我自己认为没有那么简单因为绝大部分，你知道我们绝大部分的 savings 储蓄，都是花在最后的那些抢救上面，除非你有一个 advanced directive， 你可以在一个支持 advanced directive 的国家。医疗环境当中会尊重你的选择，否则的话，你最后的钱全都是浪费在这种没有太多价值的最后的几天几周。这个问题以后我们另外开篇聊，但是我觉得很有意思的是，不管是我选择马上将要生育，还是你选择坚定的不生育，其实养老这个问题都是跟孩子没有直接的关系的。
对，
都是自己要安排的事情。
是。
我觉得其实回到这个问题我们选择的到底是更轻松的还是更困难的那条路？我因为在上一集当中讲到了我的这个选择当中有自己的很多我认为的生育特权，包括时间职业所在的城市等等。如果说没有这些特权的话，我确实觉得生育这条路某种程度上是比较难的因为你要非常努力的去寻找自己需要的东西，需要保留的东西。否则很容易就被养育的职责给带走，对吗？你的时间很快就会被充满，所以你要更多的这种努力去把这一部分你自己需要的东西保留着。
你要很 conscious 的去，可能这是听起来有点自私，但是我觉得是对自己的有一个 boundary 的一个设计。
对，所以我觉得这一点是比较难的。对于很多选择生育的这个家长来说，乔治好大儿，我的好大儿。
对，
你看影响妈妈工作吧？哎呀， 对，但是我也觉得我很想鼓励一下大家哈，就是我刚才所说的这些所谓的特权，一部分你自己也是可以创造的，或者说可以把自己的环境改善的哈。有些人如果是真的是交往不来，给你很多压力，你就离他们远一些嘛，对吧？我们一直强调这一点，不管是讲到婚育啊，还是讲到职业呀，还是讲到生育的选择等等，换一个圈子，换一个环境，我觉得对于我们的这个生活模式也会受益的。
对，我其实有女性朋友，她们在这个刚生完之后是迷失过一段时间，但是呢，因为她那个心里面总会有一个梦想，这个梦想一直都没有被熄灭，所以最后还是把自己找回来了。然后而且非常好，就是我有一个女性朋友，在我们前一集忘记说，她是我其实在英国的同学，她呢就是19岁就怀孕了，当时，她的那时候的男朋友是个日本人，所以她就跟他去了日本，在日本就是比较传统嘛，他们就是这种家庭，当时她就决定生这个孩子，然后就结婚。但是呢，她因为19岁大家都是在正嗨的时候，她就选择了一个这样子的一个。就是当妈的生活，所以她当时非常的情绪，非常非常的这个沮丧，而且 depressed 了很多年。她那时候我们还写那个 email，还有在那 MSN 上面聊天，她就跟我说，她说我不能爱我的孩子，因为我特别的就是怀念年轻的自己。她就非常非常的就是消失了好久。然后后来我在 Facebook 上又看到她现在她那个心中的梦想还是没死，她又把它找回来了。她做那个蛋糕。
哇哦，
对，做的特别漂亮，而且现在就是还做到，就是至少在 Facebook 上面我看到他还是非常的受欢迎，而且他的这个小孩已经很大了，小孩
是，
对，但你看他19岁生孩子，
对，有的时候生的早也有生的早，
对，所以他现在就是
后来居上，
他现在还是非常年轻，然后呢，但是他的这个孩子就跟他差不多大了，所以走出去都不像就是自己的儿子。
对啊，有一种讲法说，你生的早的话就是用体力去养，生的晚的话就是用财力去养。
对，确实是
各有各的好处吧。对，他还有很长的时间可以去开发自己的事业第二春。
对，他现在的那个就是他的主要人的这个他的重心又回到事业上了，而且我觉得非常一点都没有耽误，没有看到他任何的好像苍老的那种感觉，所以我觉得他状态还特别特别好，
就是错过了一点 teenage years。
对，就20几岁的那个就是对，
还好啦，
但是40岁又把他找回来了，
是挺好的。
我想问问你哈，倩，就是你怎么去看待这个对面打引号的对面的这种生活方式，比如说生育和不生育的女性，我们在哪些方面会更容易被误解？
这个我在此前一些集数当中有 hint 到过哈，就是我个人非常反感的一个就是分离这种 alienation。好好的我们女性本来都可以结合在一起，互相学习、互相爱的，但是好像因为某些原因会有些对立啊，或者说至少也有一些 alienation， 对吧？有一些疏离。其实，在上一集当中我有提到，我们俩其实互相之间是根本就不会去过分询问生育选择的，对吗？
我们很少聊这个话题。
对，因为又觉得，看你我就知道你想通了，你想明白了，就是彼此都是默认对方，尊重对方的选择，不会太过于去在意对方的这个，我不会去猜测Ella 肯定没想清楚，让我劝一劝他或者怎样，不可能的。对，所以其实我觉得我们处在一个比较良好的一个环境当中吧，对吧？
对。
但是我有一些反感一个现象，我觉得至少在互联网上是非常存在的，就是一些不生育者。举个例子哈，其实从每一个角度，每一个这个所谓的人群都会有这样的情况，就是不生育者的作为例子的话，他们有的时候会把一种对于生育的恐惧 project 投射到别人身上。这种 projection 这种投射呢，其实有的时候是很微妙的，你不一定能够很具体的抓住对方，或者说 call people out。举个例子，如果说一个女性有一个比较艰难的一个生产的过程，对吧？那有些不生育的朋友可能会 好像有一种I told you so， 或者说
那种 hindsight，
对，就会好像觉得这个不顺利的生育就是定义了这个女性的这个怀孕和整个成为母亲的这样一个过程，而实际上这个不顺利的生育过程确实有可能是一种创伤型的体验哈，是一种人生难得的这种极高程度的痛苦。但是你有问这个生育的女性的意见了吗？对她来说，对她这个整个怀孕成为母亲的过程来说，她觉得这是她最大的一个这个 definitive moment 吗？是她最定义的这个瞬间吗？也许不是。我想跟大家分享一个我的小小的这个被触碰到的瞬间哈。当我看到在 Instagram 上面，因为 Instagram 上面用的人西方人比较多哈，有这样一个小小的投票调查，问生过孩子的女性，你觉得以下几个环节哪一个你最喜欢，哪一个你觉得最痛苦，或者说最不怀念？这几个选项，一个是 first trimester， 第一个这个怀孕的3个月周期，第二个选项是第二个怀孕3个月周期 second trimester。第三个选项是第3个周期，也就是最后生产前的3个月。第4个选项是生产 labor。第5个选项是 the fourth trimester， 第4个这个周期，其实就指的是孩子出生头3个月嘛。然后大家各抒己见，我就很喜欢看到他们的答案哈。但是触动我的那一个瞬间，是我发现有很多女性其实投票选择，她们最喜欢的是 labor，也就是第4个环节。我才发现原来这个，因为他们也说了很多自己的理由，比如说我从一个女人变成一个母亲的这种非母亲变成母亲的这个过渡的过程是非常美好的。当我看到的时候，我非常受震撼，因为这么多年来看到的所有关于生育的都是尽量避免损伤，对吧？没有什么美好，没有人跟我提过这个事情可能是一个美好。我仔细想想。我的天哪，当然它可能是很美好的一件事情，对吗？但我怎么会只把它跟痛苦，或者说我要尽量避免痛苦，我要胆战心惊的去做这样的准备而联系起来，而没有想到这个过程本身的这种非常自然、非常原始的一种美好哈。所以这个给我自己敲响了一个警钟，我就发现我之前所吸取的这些信息，这些舆论其实是有一点偏颇的。
对，其实我有朋友，他们在这个生育之后，哪怕这个生产过程是非常痛苦的一个但是呢，他生育之后的这种快乐的感觉，他们是可以去，他说是可以去忘掉这个就是生产过程这个痛苦的。当然也有朋友就是忘不掉的，这个也有。对，就是看因人而异。但是呢，你要说。我身边就是做母亲的朋友，大部分不是说那种后悔，觉得肠子悔青了，我怎么样，而是呢，他们会觉得可能在选择上，比如说时间上面可能会再天时地利人和一点或者是在这个
重新再来做一遍的话，也许哪件事情会做得不一样。
对，就是优先哪个，然后或者是他们会觉得自己在生完了之后没有去立刻调整自己的这个精神面貌，不是说身体他们的
postpartum，
对，主要是那个精神面貌，他们的这个而让这个精神 drag 了他们很久，
明白，
然后从一个 postpartum 到了这个 depression， 然后到了一个很漫长的一个好像无底洞，然后最后爬出来的时候，他就觉得哎呀，有点是不是为时已晚？对，所以就是我觉得这个也是，我觉得应该让女性是知道的，有这个知情权，
是，所以要获得更好的信息嘛。
对，那个我不知道你知不知道这个作家叫那个波伏娃。然后是他写的那个The Second Sex 里面，他就写了很多关于这个，就是因为他那个年代没有这么多信息，我觉得他真的是一个勇者，好长好厚一本书啊，天哪，
非常厚，我那个书房在里面，所以我就指给大家看了，
对，好厚一本，
这么厚大概，
对，很 impressive 放家里面，但是我觉得就是，确实。如果有了这个知情权的话，你可能会优先自己很多的这个选择。我觉得在选择上面，如果你要选择你的 choice is a choice， 对不对？
对，信息一定是最重要的。
对，
所以其实我刚才说到的这个 projecting fear， 或者说 projecting 一些自己的不安全感是我在这个所谓我们这边和对面这种关系当中比较 反感的一件事情。我很希望大家都可以从自己身上找到安全感，而不是去通过找到别人的例子或者反例去证实自己啊，或者去 validate 自己的选择等等啊，这个可能是初级的做法。我希望大家都可以到高级的，就是自己产生自己所需要的所有安全感。
是。
对，那我们接下去吐槽，就是在这个生育选择过程当中，女性确实背负着更大的一个重量吧，对吧？往往你可能自己事业也最好不要放弃啊，同时你还要成为一个 caretaker， 而且你是一个母亲，你可能对于孩子的这个连结就是天生更强一些，对吗？如果 Ella 你真的生育了的话，你觉得你最担心的会是什么呀？什么最大的事？这个
可能就是睡眠问题吧，
时间问题。
对，我觉得这个应该是我观察到的，就是众多妈妈们的一个，特别是刚开始的母亲，让我真的是心痛。就是对我的好朋友就是 Celine， 她近2年当的妈妈，她跟她的先生2个人就经常是那种就梦游者。哇，就是有一次我看到她先生在外面遛狗，然后他就快睡着了，然后我说嘿，然后他说哦不好意思，他说哇我好困啊，就是对他们2个是第1胎嘛，然后就就是能看到就是他的那个面部确实是2个都很憔悴，但是呢也很开心，能看到他们就是有那种就是泪中得到的那种满足感哈。但是确实就特别是女性，我觉得要特别是有事业的女性，她是又有工作，又有这个自己的事业，有自己的家庭要照顾，有狗有猫有娃有老公，然后这样子的一个情况下的话，真的是你如果不给自己打气的话，或者是身边找不到一个 supportive community 的话，我觉得是很惨的。就是对，我觉得这个 support 很重要，这个 support system 就是在这个女性生产之后，我其实特别想吐的就是对我真的是特别想吐的是一些男性，在这个当了爹之后的那个，就他的 promise，嘴上说的好听，行动上慢。我跟你讲，慢到就你就觉得我10分钟已经解决，对，还不如我自己来。但是呢，你的这个我自己来呢，他就开始，你看你能做吧，对不对？对，就是他有心而力不足。我跟你讲，这个就是我特别是想吐槽的一点。我见过的大部分的那些年轻的爸爸们都是刚开始劲儿可足了，我保证哒哒哒，我保证哒哒哒哒，结果这个保证就持续了大概可能2周吧，然后之后这个所有的东西就还是归于女性的这个重任了，然后所以我就会觉得有的时候心里面会很不服气，就会觉得就看到他又要做饭又要遛狗又要怎么样，然后到最后还要喂孩子，然后半夜起来的时候，那你兄长在你身上，你要去喂奶，对不对？你怎么办呢？对不对？
对，这个真的挺可怕的，就是像是一种变卦一样，对吗？你可以对这个人有充分的了解，但是真的是很难知根知底。
对，很难预测的，因为他不是他说这个话，他真心的，他当时给你的保证
是没错，
对他愿意，真的是愿意，但是实际上要做的这个真的是你做起来是很难，对所以这个就是我希望如果有男性看我们的节目的话，你们自己长点记性。我不多说了。
对，你刚才说到的你的朋友 Celine， 至少他和他的伴侣2个人是共同分担这个睡眠不足的这个困难哈。对，我也觉得其实对我来说，我很想吐槽的一点就是确实有些双方这个养育搭档当中，一个起了很大的力，另外一个就是好像只是享受一些乐趣的这个过程，往往那个人是父亲的角色嘛。确实是让我比较难以接受的一件事情。对，这当中确实有一些生物的元素哈，有 biological 的一些因素，也有社会的因素，但是怎么破呢？好难呀，
真的很难，真的很难。拿狗就是我跟我先生。谁遛得多，肯定是我遛得更多。其实我没有什么好操心的，他愿意承担，就是他会主动跟我说，今天要怎么样，我要做什么什么什么。但是我就希望他不要问我，我希望他自己拿着就开始做。你不要问我这个东西在哪，你不要问我怎么，你为什么还要老问我？对，就是观察力不够。
确实是，我觉得越是细心的，或者说越是要求高的，就要 承担更多的事情嘛，对吗？
对，
我还没生出来，在厨房里面这种偏好也是一样的。如果你对厨房的干净程度的要求更高，你最终是做事情
的那个没办法，对，没办法。所以这个就是我觉得这个有点难翻这个身。
没错还有就是养育的这个成本哈，因为我觉得经济的这个问题我们之前讲了一点点，但是没有讲那么多，太贵了，我的天哪！我有提到上集当中提到在美国一些1线2线的城市，像Bright Horizon 一个比较知名的连锁日托，一个孩子1个月可以达到$2000哈。我还问了一下，没有 bundle discount 的，2个就是2倍，3个就是3倍，非常非常的可怕。这个税后收入就全都贡献给一个机构了。
是，
而且孩子你还要什么4点钟去接呀什么的，就是你真的要是很忙的话，
生病了还要在家待着。
对，是没错，就是有的时候是长时间生病的孩子付了好几个月的钱去上了大概半个月，
对
所以很多人选择少生或者晚生或者不生，都有这样的因素存在，太难了。
我确实就是在这个方面我是极度心痛女性的，就是在这个，因为学生家长就是我看到的都是就是妈妈们又忙里又忙外，而且好多都是那个双职的家庭。虽然他们经济条件已经很好，但他们也愿意在外面继续上班嘛，体现自己的这个价值。
对，
就更别说全职妈妈了。很多人就是会否定这个全职妈妈的这个价值，好像觉得挣钱的那个人才真正的更重要。但是全职妈妈真的是，你想你没有她，你这个家庭真的就是一个就是战场，本来就是战场了。
是的，所以哎呀，真的这些结构性的问题哈，我觉得一时半会儿很难解决。也许我们可以借鉴一下同性家庭的这个做法，双方都是女性，双方都是男性，我也很好奇他们的dynamic 是怎么形成的哈。
对，
少一些这种默认的 dynamic。
我有一个同性家庭，他们是有2个孩子的哈，然后他们。他有2个儿子，双胞胎。他跟他的这个先生，就是这个孩子的生父呢，他们是保持非常好的关系，就2个人是可以随时都可以把孩子接走啊，或者是送到另外一个人，他们有这个约定。然后但是双方又组织了新的家庭。所以让我看到的，
所以孩子有4个爸爸是吗？
对，有4个爸爸。对，特别的。很前卫，我觉得在很多方面，但是呢又特别有爱。他们4个人相处的极好，就是他发的照片 Instagram 上面都是4个人都是天天就是恨不得每个星期都会聚会，就他们为了孩子，就是只要为了孩子，他们会双方都很愿意，而且双方的伴侣都是非常愿意。
那下一个问题 Ella 我抛给你哈，因为其实在上集当中我们有描述一个我们觉得是相对比较理想的一个环境。为什么理想呢？因为每一位女性都可以有客观的多元的信息源，并且有一个非常支持的社会的环境，去帮助他们真正自由的去选择生或者不生，或者随便怎么样。但是在这个理想世界来临之前呢，我们有没有给年轻的女孩子、听众、观众一些非常真诚的一些建议吧？
我觉得这个问题特别好，就是好有爱的一个问题。我就觉得就是其实我还是想回到就是我们上一期谈触到的一些关于信息的这个就是接触，就是女孩子如果我们就是不能信息单一化，就比如说我虽然选择不生育，但是呢我身边有很多生育了的朋友，并没有就是把我孤立起来，或者是我把他们给就是放弃了，并没有，而且反而就是可能前几年他们会比较忙，但是之后现在都已经回到平常了，对，没有任何的区别。所以我觉得作为我的话，我会觉得就是有的时候听他们讲这个育儿经，跟他们一起分享我的教育的这个理念的话，其实是一个非常快乐的一个过程。然后呢能让我的这个教育理念可能在他们身上得到实践，也是一个，所以我觉得其实应该是互相有一个这个交流的。其实反过来也是，就比如说作为有母亲的不行，母亲说错了，有孩子的这个母亲他们 如果反过来也是对这个就是丁克的这个选择，然后产生这个好奇心，然后想知道，就觉得哎，你们平时都去哪玩啊？
草绿不绿到底？
对，所以对草是不是绿一点啊？对，我觉得就是如果我们能够女孩子，特别是女孩子能够接触不同的信息的话，不同种类，而且不同立场吧，我觉得不一定是要站在你这个立场。我觉得你看到另外一边，你也会知道怎么样反射回来自己的立场。原来我这么选择这是我的原因，或者是他这么选择是他的原因。
对，其实我觉得不仅仅要我们让自己多去接触一些多元的信息源啊，不一样的故事，不一样的选择。接触时候的态度也很重要。我们不是去拿着自己的结论，然后出去找这个对照组，去找支持我结论的信息，或者说如果看到不支持我的信息，跟我想象的相反的，我就完全把它去 discount 掉。这样的话就会造成你不断的在自己的 confirm 自己的偏见，对不对？这样的偏见反而越来越深，所以即使是有了好的信息，你也要有好的这个思考的态度和开放性的思维。也许你可以带一个假设，你可以带一个 hypothesis， 在那个 scientific method 里面，你确实是必须要有一个 hypothesis， 然后你去设计一个这样的小小的实验，比较客观、比较公正的去评估你的这个 hypothesis 是不是很有可能是正确的啊。最后你就也只能达到一个 conclusion， 就是说我有多少的信心，这个 conclusion，这个 hypothesis 是受用于我的随后你还有可能会接收到新的信息，你可能还会去推翻你原来的这个假设，一切都有可能哈。所以我非常非常建议大家对所有的事情都采取一个非常开放性的去获取客观多面的信息，并且以一个非常这个正确的这个思维态度去消化它。
对，就是一些很 loving 的 thoughts， 其实也是很重要。我在我一个很好的一个朋友，他的就是生完孩子之后，他的这么多年的这个状态，我会很诚实的提醒他，如果我觉得他有一点就是放弃自己了，我会指出，
摇醒他。
对，因为我觉得如果没有人说的话，他自己是不知道。我必须要做那个，他要觉得我饿就饿，但他不会，他其实很感激我。对他，我觉得就是觉得其实很多妈妈在生完宝宝之后会升华成另外一个可能爱的境界确实会升华。我觉得在某种程度上会很包容，就是比如说我对他说的哪怕很直接，我说你要怎么样，然后他就说是吗？他如果真的 OK， 然后他会去想，如果不说的话，他先生不可能告诉他的，对自己都帮不了自己的，对啊。然后所以我觉得在就是未来畅想的世界里面，我也希望就是大家能够真心的去点醒对方吧，在对方需要被点醒的时候，
是，互相激励，互相鼓励哈。
对，
我觉得我还有一些给这个还在做决定的女性的一些小小的建议吧。我觉得与父母精神上一定要尽早分开，因为我们讲这个生育不生育这样的选择，虽然今天上集下集都没有讲太多关于父母的哈，因为其实这个环境非常的多元，你可能是压力是来自于各个部分的，但是精神分开与父母，包括与这个社会压力，包括与你的同辈的周围的人一定会给你很多的力量去寻找你自己内心想要去听的声音。其实它一直都在的，但是你要慢慢去一层层把自己的洋葱皮剥开去发掘。
对，我觉得确实很多人会说父母都是为你好怎么样？是，他确实是为你好，他不可能就是想害你。
对，但他不一定知道 better。
对
，they don't necessarily know better。
对，他不一定他的这个想法在当时是适合你的，他觉得对你好的，所以。这也不是一种不孝。有些年轻的孩子会觉得，我如果不听父母就是不孝顺啊。因为可能在我们这种就是儒家思想的国家，这个孝是一个非常重要的一个奇怪又有重量的词。对，因为牵扯到这个就是道德主义，你就会觉得会有一层害怕的那种感觉哈。
没错。
对，
实际上之前我们也说过嘛，就好的家长。给予爱，给予支持，给予一些工具，但是不要给予这个直接的答案，对不对？
对
，refrain from。
对。
我觉得还有一个很重要的，获得经济安全感，这一点我非常非常的想要划重点哈。在我怀孕大概6周左右的时候，那个时候也可能是情绪是由荷尔蒙引起的，或者说因为还在适应这个新的这个新闻这个消息，我跟我的伴侣托比发生了一个比较大的争吵。我当时心里突然有一种想法，我说可能这个应该是很 irrational 的哈，也有可能是一种保护自己胎儿的一种很 primal 很本能性的一种感受，就是如果你这么不给力，这么让我拖我后腿的话，我就自己去养育这个孩子，对，我干嘛需要你啊？姐自己可以的。
对，
翻译过来就是这样，当时是很气愤的啊。但是在那个同一个时期啊，我在小红书上刷到一个帖子，是完全不一样的一个生活状态，就是一个女性也是怀孕6周，印象特别深刻。她说怎么办？因为她的这个生活的状态跟我完全不一样，经济能力没有，然后男性是想要劝她打掉，她自己想要。男性而且是一个非常在描述中显得很不负责任的这样一个渣男potential 潜在的渣男。所以当我看到他这样充满绝望的一种情景的时候，他自己也说自己还觉得很绝望嘛，就觉得不想打掉，但是他没有办法，也自己一个人养不起。我当时的感受是非常非常强烈的。千万女孩子们把自己放在有主动权的一个环境当中。不劝大家碰到一点点问题就那个抛夫弃子，叫什么屈夫留子，屈夫留女。但是把你自己放在一个更安全的位置，尽力去打造这样一个安全的位置，我觉得太重要。
对，对，一定要有经济实力在，因为毕竟这个是活生生的一口要吃饭的。
是，因为影响你的这个赚钱能力的之后。对，
我觉得
今天已经给了很多爱了，
很多爱的鼓励了。对啊，
对，那我们待会儿就期待一下跟这个 Nicole Louis 我们的作家朋友的连线哈，采访他有关这本书，也有关于他这个人的一些故事。但在此之前，我也想跟大家介绍一个为什么我们特别喜欢 Nicole Louis 这本书和他这个人。因为他代表了一种非常温柔的声音，他的写作当中你能够感受到他的人，你待会儿也会看到就是一个娓娓道来会让你觉得很真诚很动人。对，我觉得这样的一种表述在现在这个文化环境当中非常非常的珍贵也难得。因为我们之前也吐槽过这个社交网络嘛，就是越吵的声音越响的越绝对的，好像获得的声量越大。
对，
它引起的这种赞收藏点评更多更爆。
对，很暴力的那种。
对，其实就是一种思想上的暴力。
是。
对，我们其实一直很反感这种很简单粗暴的叙事什么比如说不婚不育保平安还有啥，比如用任何那种一句话去概括，或者说去警惕所有的女性所有的情况。
对，
这些东西比如说你说
就把 absolute 就放在了这个。对，
而且口号多好听对吧？确实是很 catchy。你说一大段的说有的没的，最后说两个都可以，看你自己选，确实是不这个本能上吸引人哈。而且这些我们也理解，这种不婚不育保平安背后确实有很多支持的故事，都是来自于很多女性活生生的这个痛苦的案例。但是如果把它作为一种这个警示性的非常 clean cut 的这样的一种建议或者说提倡那其实就是压缩了我们很多女性的多样性和这个自主性吧。
对，而且反倒会起很多就是社会矛盾。对，我觉得像 Nicole 这样子的这种叙述方式，我觉得是非常让人能够就是去接受的。因为温和而且有力量，其实就是一个 soft power， 我觉得
对，
是很需要的。
其实也很感谢大家听到现在，因为我们不是那种喊口号的，然后非常的耸人听闻 sensational 的这样的做派哈。
对，
我们都是慢慢道来，这个试图分享一个比较平衡的一个观点或者说方法，
三思而后行的。
对所以如果大家能听到现在，是因为给了很多的信任和 宽容，
对，我们也愿意
和耐心。
对，现在我觉得我们的这个就是分享的这个方式也跟大家就是都好像 sync 了。
但是也请大家多给我们推荐你们的朋友来听哦，因为我们的内容如果不爆的话，它其实很难 reach 到新的东西。
对，就
希望大家的有机的传播。
是，希望大家就是为我们点赞，然后为我们鼓励，给我们打赏，这个也很重要。
多分享几个朋友。
对。
OK， 那我们就进入 Nicole 的环节。
OK，
好。
So Nicole, since you are here, would you give us a little bit more personal introduction of yourself and of your book?
Absolutely, yes. So I'm from Brazil. I was born in Brazil 42 years ago. Studied copywriting, did a postgrad in literature, then did a second postgrad in translation. So that work led me to work in Sweden and in Ireland and in Portugal and in England. And I chose Ireland as my heart's home. I've been here on and off for 10 years. I'm Irish now, so I'm Brazilian Irish. And somewhere along the way, I started writing a book about my very uncomfortable feelings in relation to not wanting to have a child. I knew I didn't want to become a mom, but I wasn't feeling very comfortable about those feelings, especially in my late 20s. And I felt like there was nobody to talk about it. I was living in Sweden, I was married, I felt very isolated. And looking for women in literature, and after that, looking for women who would talk to me and who could I interview and have long conversations, just like the ones we're having now, was a way, I guess, to cope and to feel less lonely. I dedicated 14 years of my life to this book. And now the book is out. It's called Others Like Me, like you beautifully introduced it. And it has my own story in details, but also has the story of the many people I met along the way. And that's the book that brought me to the two of you today.
Yes, lovely.
Thank you.
So Nicole, I guess my first question for you, given that most of our audience members haven't read your book yet, I'm curious, can you tell us where you were on your inner journey to reach this decision to not have a child as you started the interview project? And where were you at the end of the interviews? I'm curious in particular, was this series of interviews kind of like a process to help you reach your decision making, or were they more of inspiration and validation post your decision? A follow-up, I guess, to that, the reason I'm asking this is, how would you recommend your readers to use your book?
I was in a place where at first I was very certain that I wanted to not have children. Then my husband at the time had a change of heart and told me that he would like to have a child and asked me how I felt about that. And that was the event that made my feelings turn. So I never had any ambivalence or doubt about not wanting to become a mother my whole life. So I was sailing quite smoothly towards that destination. But then having the person you love have a change of heart felt really like hitting an iceberg, and then having this hard stop on my journey, which then became the cataclysm that made me look really hard into myself and into my life and think, okay, you were going in that direction, but do you really want to continue in that direction? Because if you do, you might lose the person you love and the life that you were building. So that's when the journey of the book starts. Do I have enough answers inside myself? How comfortable I am, how confident I am about it. And what I can say is I lost all my confidence. I lost all the comfort inside of me and felt like I needed a support network. But at 28, having left Brazil and living in Sweden, I couldn't find that support network when I needed. So I felt like I had to start building it myself. So in many ways, this book is the boat that I built so that I could stop drowning. That's the easiest way I can. That's how it felt. Every page I wrote, every interview I had, every woman I met, it felt like one new piece of this boat that would keep me afloat. So I guess I started there and I ended, well, by ending, I'll probably say the end of the book, which I would rather not to. But what I can say is not going through things alone can give you so much. And that was so important, regardless of what my decision was at the end of the book. What was really important for me about this book was building community. Because just like anybody who reads this book, if by the end of it they decide to become a mother or not, that doesn't invalidate their reflection through the book. So to me, the most important thing was not if I had a kid or not at the end, but how I felt while I was making that decision. And I felt much better because I found all of these women. So to how I would recommend anybody to use this book, to be honest, it really depends on where you are on your journey and what you're trying to get out of it. I know some people who got really kind of stuck into the memoir part and really connected to it and will write to me talking specifically about the memoir part. Other women seem to go straight to the middle section because what they really want is variety, is possibilities, is the diversity in stories. So they almost just skip the beginning, go to the middle and read through the stories first, which I'm completely okay with. The social commentary part is very heavy at the end. So if you're more interested in a sociological perspective on the topic, then the third section is probably where you want to spend more time. There are other people who are really interested in the resources pages at the end. What else can I do? What other books can I read? And the good news is it is all there. Every single book that I read in those 14 years that I felt that had contributed to this womanhood notion outside of motherhood is listed there for anyone to find. And also the curated work that I've done.
Yeah, lovely. Because I checked with Ella also as we both were finishing this book. How were you reading the book? Which part were you most drawn to, right? And for both of us, coincidentally, we just love your personal story a lot. The moving around, the struggles, the changes that you have to deal with. We love that part, but I totally agree with you that it's there's so many different ways to approach it. My second question actually is related to that. You know, I don't know if folks have watched our part one of this episode. I am 30 weeks pregnant, so it's very apparent that Nicole and I are making very, very different, drastically different decisions about whether to have children. But there is a personal closeness that I feel as I was reading your book, because we have one thing very much in common. That is, we both thought about the question, do I want kids, very, very thoroughly. And it's a process that spanned years, if not decades. But a lot of our audience members are quite a bit younger. And this episode, we really would love to share a bit more about how we structure our own process to learn the things we need to learn, the narratives we need to hear from, and the data even if we so search, and to arrive at our own decision. And it's a long process. It's laboring. It's very tough and sometimes painful. So you share with us just now quite a bit. But what are some other resources and tools that really helped you along this process to reach your decision, that enlightened you the most?
Last week I was in Amsterdam and with the book talk, just like the book talk where I met Ella in Portugal. And somebody in the audience told me at the end, Nicole, I'm in this early 30s phase where all my friends are having kids. And this is really leading me to feel pressured to make a decision soon. And I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was something along the lines of, I feel a bit of envy about the life that they are already having. I'm not there, but then at the same time, I don't know if I want to be there. Do you have any advice? And it's an interesting thing. Like, I'm asked a lot for advice, and it's a very vulnerable place to be, because sometimes what is a good advice for you is not for somebody else. But what I did tell her, because I could hear tension, stress, and almost pain in the way she was telling this to me, was just, and I guess this is the advice to your readers that I think is general enough and not harmful, is the process of deciding to have a child or not is such a privilege. so many people in the world don't get to choose, don't have right to education, are child brides by the time they're 10 years old or have kids by the time they're 15. To have the possibility to think about it is a privilege. And I think if we think about it this way, that it doesn't have to be a bad phase, doesn't have to be a hard stage of our lives. This is something I wish I had been told, that I didn't have to suffer that much while I was going through that session, that it could have been, that the mind frame could have been, I don't know what the answer is, but I'm going to try to find out. And isn't it good that I get the time to do that? So what I did tell her was, take this time, take a step back from the negative feelings, allow yourself to discover what you truly want. And allowing yourself time means something like, am I ready to make this decision? Am I ready to make this decision alone? What kind of support do I have to make this decision? And what kind of support is still missing, and how can I get it? For me, when it happened, like I said, I was alone in another country, in a place where I couldn't speak the language. So finding support was hard, but it wasn't impossible. There was a library. I went there and I found books. So this is one approach. If you have a supportive family, if you live in your country, if there is somebody who you feel you can connect to, do you trust that person to help you make that decision? Go there. Is it a parent? Is it a sister? Is it your best friend? Is it your partner? Go after that support. If you don't feel comfortable having that conversation with people in your inner circle, does therapy, is it an option? Can you afford? Is it available to you? There are so many amazing books that can help you go through that. One of them that I think it's really, really worth mentioning is by Jen Safer, and it's called Beyond Motherhood. And what that book does is it walks you through exercises. So in the privacy of your home, when you have time, when you have energy, without having to talk to somebody else, she will give you prompts and she'll ask you questions that will really allow you to think very deeply. How do I feel about motherhood? How do I feel about pregnancy? How do I feel about the responsibility towards another human being for the next 20 years? Can I afford it? Can I not? Does it matter? Does it not? It's like she'll guide you through that process. So the good news is those tools already exist. The help already exists. It's just a matter of you deciding, do you want to do it alone? Do you want to do it with a book? Do you want to do it with a partner? But the most important advice is take the time if you can, and enjoy having the time. It doesn't have to be pressure. The time that you have where you don't have a kid doesn't have to be a bad time. And another thing that I think is really important is I saw a lot of my friends getting close to their 30s and then becoming completely obsessed with the idea of pregnancy because they were so worried about their fertility. And I'm not saying that concern is not valid. It absolutely is. But it is only valid if you want to have a child. Your fertility dropping when you don't want to have a child is not a bad thing. The second most important question, in my opinion, is why? Why do I want to have that child? Regardless of who is going to be the father. How do I feel about the responsibility towards another human being for so long? Am I curious about that experience? Is this something that I'm looking forward? And I think everything else is really after that. We shouldn't be having kids because we're worried about who is going to take care of us, later in life, or because we want to leave some kind of legacy in the world. Just like, I want my bloodline to continue or whatever it is. That's not really a reason. So look inside yourself, figure out if you want, why you want. And I think everything else can fall into place after that.
I actually have a friend that I forgot to mention in our last episode. She is in her 50s now, and she's from Middle East. And she decided not to have a child. And for her, she told me it was like she's an outcast now because it's so important for her culture, just the society to feel normal, And she told, and I asked her why, because you are from maybe a little bit, you're a little bit older than me. You are from the generation that, it's kind of, you used to have babies, right? And she's like, I don't know, Ella. She said, I have always been this worrying type. She said she was always worried about when the cat is sick, when somebody is, a dog is sick, she couldn't sleep for days and nights. And she knew that moment, she's like, God, if I am going to be a mom, then I would die, Something happened that it would just kill me. And so she said because of that kind of a little bit of like prediction that she had for herself, so she decided not to. But for her family, culture, like the whole society, she had to leave behind. She now lives in Lisbon. And it's very difficult, for her situation to really,
I can imagine.
Yeah, to connect herself with kind of her old self. Yeah, so what you just described, I was actually thinking about her.
Thank you for sharing that. I think one thing that is really important about that is nobody knows ourselves better than ourselves. So this that you said, that she's so aware of her personality, she worries so much about the cat and the dog. Of course, she's going to carry even more about the human being who is fully dependent on her for the first years of their life for anything, for everything. And that awareness is her survival instinct telling her, will you cope? Maybe the level of anxiety that you're going to feel, is it what you want, how you want to be living? And she is making the decision for herself that she doesn't think she can cope. So for somebody else to come around and say, you were wrong, we don't like you, or you're not part of the family anymore, I'm not saying any of this is easy. I actually think it's really hard. But I just think it's so unfair that somebody else's opinions override the self-awareness of a human being who is choosing for herself not to have a child. And that doesn't impact anybody else. The sister, the cousin, everybody else can have their lives as they want to. It can be so hard to stop listening to all of that, to mute some of those external voices and try to figure out what is it that we want. Which is why I'm saying taking the time, is important. Take the time, take that space. It is a privilege. It can be a really good space to give yourself time to listen to your own voice. I think it's something that we as women are not taught. We are told what to do and how to feel about almost everything in relation to our lives. So we have to untrain ourselves so much. And this is not a small thing. Figuring out if we want to be parents is one of the most formative decisions in our lives. So it is our job to try and find the people and the tools and the techniques and the support that we need to mute those voices, lift our internal voices, and make decisions that will make us happy, even if it will make our family unhappy. They will figure that out, and we will be okay, hopefully.
I love it. It's so beautifully said. And I was just making a mental pledge to myself that after this thing, he was kicking me so hard. After he is born, I will still try my very best to keep listening to my own voice also, because we really know ourselves best, right? And this self-awareness, I hope no one can take away from any of us.
I think it's a muscle memory, right? At some point. Yeah.
You exercise it, and I think you'll be a better mom for it as well. I really do. I think the best moms are the moms that are very self-aware, and I think your child will be happier for it. Seeing a mom that is happier, that is more satisfied, that is more self-aware can really shape the life of a child. I mean, there is a reason why there are entire chapters in my book about my mom and my grandmother and what it was like to grow up watching women who wanted so much and couldn't do so much, who had so much more to give, wanted to do more with their lives and couldn't. The opposite is also true. Being in a relationship or watching a family grow where the women are happy with themselves, I think it can really shape the worldview of a child.
Thank you, Nicole.
Through your book, and especially your own story, I sense that you have so much love. Okay, you're such a loving person that I can feel the vibration. I just by just reading your words, and please take that as a compliment. I just wonder, where do your love and this in Portuguese we call it carinhos. I don't know if I can we can put that in you. And where do they go nowadays? And do you have a special place?
This is a beautiful question. I love it, Ella. Thank you. for everything you said and for asking me that. I think it goes back to what we just said about women not being taught to listen to themselves. And there is a part of womanhood that centuries, millennia back, take us to the feeling of we can only express ourselves through the love to other human beings. And that love is usually vertical. It's from a grandmother to the mother to the daughter and then to our own children. And I was really curious to know where love could go horizontally, in what other directions that love could go. And in a way, that's not to say that when you become a mother, you cannot do that. I hope we'll all continue to do that, because one of the biggest problems I have with some of my friendships recently when they become mothers is that they completely stop looking in other directions and all they can think about is the baby. And I have a really hard time understanding how that can happen. But obviously that comes from the fact that I have mental space to be more horizontal now. So I think there is some balance in the world that would be great to achieve, where mothers don't just think about the nuclear family for the rest of their lives. And the rest of us who don't have kids, how don't we just look at our own belly button all the time? I mean, I've lived in 8 countries. I speak different languages. My work is so outward. I'm surrounded by people in different cultures all the time. Like, what do I do with the knowledge I have, with the care that I have, with the curiosity I have? And the answer is friendships, community work, creative work. It's usually where it goes. And that can keep changing. It could be a book, it could be painting, it could be traveling, it could be researching the lives of women like I'm doing now for my second book. It could be organizing meetups, going to meetups that are already organized, doing community work in your neighborhood, helping to clean your local area, which is something that my partner does every Saturday. We live in a neighborhood here in Dublin, and there are these beautiful initiatives called Tidy Towns here in Ireland. And there is one in each neighborhood. So in our neighborhood, every Saturday, people who live here in this area meet to clean the streets and to clean the park and to clean our local river. And then they get to talk to each other and spend 2 hours together. So this to me is a very good example of horizontal love. It's just stretching ourselves in directions that maybe we were not taught because we were women. This is also caring, this is also loving, and this is also taking care, making the world better in a tiny, tiny way. So I've been exploring more and more ways to do that. At the moment, really is having conversations like that. Is dedicating myself to creating reading circles. I do a lot of online book clubs. To me, this is all horizontal love. And I love that now I have the time and energy to do that.
Thank you. That was very touching. And that leads to actually my next question. Actually, I want to add something because me and Chen, we were discussing about social mothers. Mm-hmm. And I believe you also, play a huge role in this social mother or societal mother. So basically it's to bring up somebody else's child by watching them or fostering them or play with them. And also, so I just had an epiphany while you were talking. I was like, even though you are, you're going to be a mom mm-hmm. to your own baby, but you can, so women with children, they can still participate this horizontal love and to also be social mothers. And so I think in that sense, we find so much common because, so much more in common because now what I'm seeing, especially on Chinese social media, that they portray there are 2 groups. Okay, one is like, oh, I'm gonna be dink. You know what the dink is, right? Yes. Like, yeah. And I don't care about I'm having my fabulous, amazing life. And oh, look at you, you have children now. Haha, oops. Like those very mean comments. And then people who have children, they say something back to them like, oh, look at you, you're not gonna get retirement benefit or anything, whatever. Nobody's going to look after you. You're going to die alone with cats. And I'm actually wondering, can we, because you wrote a book about this woman, you interviewed a lot of women, can we find the most common beauty in this scenario, Because having a child, not having a child, it does put a difference in our life, sometimes in the path. but can we actually even find common in social mothering, for each other, basically?
I think we can. I think what that will look like would be different for everybody. Some of us are more extroverts, so maybe being big circles like Meetup is not a comfortable place to be. For other people, maybe it is, I don't know, reading for an elderly person on a one-on-one session, which is something I've done in the past. It can be quite comforting. It's just you and that person. There's not much small talk. You have an activity, you have something to do, or you go buy them groceries or something like that. So I think being aware of our personality and what is good for us is also important, so we don't put ourselves in roles. So instead of becoming mothers of our own children, we don't become mothers to others when we don't want to. I think that can be also a trap, because then you're just learning that there's only value in your life if you are in a maternal role. So I just think we have to be a bit careful about not always seeing ourselves from the lenses of being a nurturer. Because men are not expected to be nurturers, and they can thrive and they can be a million things. So let's make sure that in choosing not to have kids or not being able to have kids, we don't become carers or nurturers unless we actually want to. I'm very nurturing. I don't mind doing that, but I do mind doing that all the time. I do mind being expected to do that. And I had relationships recently where I felt like I had to step back a bit from the friendship just to not become the babysitter, for example, because I liked the children. It was becoming a bit too symbiotic. And then I thought, well, but that's not my child. So I love the idea of being a social mother. And I think for those who feel the appeal, they can go that way. But I've also heard from women in the book who are just very happy watching Netflix at home, being alone, doing their own thing. And I think that's important too. It's important to understand that there are some people who don't like children. There are some people who can't interact, who don't know how to interact with children. And there are some people who are just not interested in them. They don't wish them any harm, but they don't want to be around them. I do try to support my friends who are also mothers and say, hey, not being a carer full time is also something that applies to you. Even though you have a child, it's okay for your husband to be the carer. It's okay for you to step back from that role for a bit and nurture the other parts of yourself. And I'm not saying it's easy to do, but I think it's important to be done if your life allows for it.
Yeah, so I'll make sure to get you out of the rhythm.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I guess this might be the end of our interview part. And I think I can speak for myself and Ella on this, but we wish you the best of luck exploring your plethora of roles and a plethora of ways to express your love, to love horizontally or keep the love for yourself or any of those things.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the work that you do. And I look forward to listening to many episodes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alright, 今天我们一共大概录了3-4个小时的 footage，
都不止了，反正从下午就
从中文讲到英文，再讲到中文。哇，我是带着宝宝工作呢。
对啊，赶紧休息，而且没怎么吃饭。
吃了还是吃的，这个我饿是放在第一位的。谢谢大家收听我们的上集和下集再次感谢大家对我们的支持，请一定要如果喜欢我们节目的话，你听到这儿了肯定喜欢，请一定要多推荐几个朋友来一起收听或者收看哦。
对，帮我们大宣传，谢谢大家了。
拜拜，
拜拜。